Hello everyone, I am activist and Mission Viejo resident Kenny Strawn.
And that's S-T-R-A-W-N for the record.
As far as politics are concerned, I am a libertarianized paleo-conservative. I support limited government.
I was raised in a conservative household, but primarily the establishment kind. What really got me on board into being a Trump supporter was how Hillary would have been so much worse than him.
I am definitely proud to be conservative, proud to be an American, proud to be a Christian, and proud to be the rational Biola type who actually uses objective reason to argue the case for Christianity.
Jesus was advocating for is separation of wealth and state, which is the exact opposite of socialism. Separation of wealth and state, populism, libertarianism, traditionalism, nationalism. Yeah, Jesus was clearly no leftist. So, if you want to tell me that anyone who claims to be Christian yet supports Trump isn't a Christian, then go ahead, because I know the Bible far better than you do.
Groupthink is nearly ubiquitous among my peers, and professors, rather than helping correct this cultural demagoguery, actually enable it. Although Marxist professors completed this work, it was Hollywood propaganda that started it all. We've become indoctrinated by Hollywood into this idea that anyone who supports political opposition must automatically be every ism in the dictionary. Left-wing boomer teachers and professors sure as hell didn't do us any favors either, and have done my generation a huge disservice by brainwashing most of my peers into this left-wing groupthink that we are in today. The two words hate speech are an empty phrase invented by the left in a lame and stupid attempt to circumvent the First Amendment. Relativism is patently false, therefore, no subjective political constructs exist, and so-called hate speech is no exception. If the pathological secularist variant of cultural Marxism never got a chance to infect our culture like the cancer that it is, then we wouldn't have the problem of people voluntarily choosing to take offense to certain parts of speech and using that choice as a lame excuse to censor political opponents. For the past 5 decades, leftist indoctrinators have managed to overwhelm the public school system and flood the minds of our youth with Marxist propaganda. The result? My peers have become commie safe space-seeking idiots who would rather cower than argue. Intellectually lazy cowards. You can tell whether a culture is dominant or not based on how much cultural influence it has, and of course, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and academia, the 3 most influential institutions in this country, are all dominated by leftists. You cannot dominate Hollywood and be the counterculture. You cannot dominate academia and be the counterculture.
Hey, it's a sofa, guys!
Then one day you need to go to the bank for help. Alone, maybe.
Hey, how's it going there, little buddy? How are you? You want to open the door for us?
But no one there can answer your questions. Seems the decision makers are not at home. Ever notice how that is? Not at SunTrust, you won't.
Yes, that kid looking through the mail slot was me. Back in the early 2000s, while I was in elementary school, I was also taking acting classes and managed to get that 1-gig wonder, but shortly after that, I decided to quit. It turned out to be the best decision I ever made. You have pedophiles doubling as producers for TV shows. Instead of being all about entertainment, Hollywood, when Donald Trump ran for the presidency and won, became all about politics. You have baseless, vacuous ad hominems directed at Trump from just about every A-list celebrity in the entire cultural establishment. The majority of the country doesn't care about Hollywood's politics, because outsourcing, offshoring, and immigration were precisely what resulted in the loss of the most jobs in the former blue states that Trump won. It's also downright laughable that so many leftists claim to have a disdain for the wealthy when they openly endorse the political positions of multimillionaire celebrities and billionaire tech executives. Hollywood and Silicon Valley are the 2 richest areas in the United States by far, and yet it's the people in these areas who advocate for raising taxes on the wealthy. That, for the record, is why I'm all the more glad to have left Hollywood at an early age.
I never had an adolescence. It was completely robbed from me by foreign workers who stole my parents' offshore jobs. 9 months, my entire family was homeless. Maybe if my mother got to keep her AT&T job and not lose it to offshoring, maybe if my father got to keep his travel agency job.
Taking more education and more tech jobs away from Americans and giving both to foreigners? Correct problem, wrong solution.
I probably would never have become a Trump supporter at all. That's the issue that got me on board with him when I I watched his RNC speech in 2016, he mentioned that one thing that was responsible for all my childhood problems.
The instant the Trump campaign began, leftists took his remarks on immigration completely out of context. Trump's remarks were statistically valid, yet the media applied fallacy to those remarks with deliberate intent to smear him. Many establishment Republicans in particular who ran against Trump in the primaries lambasted Trump for being an infrastructuralist. They assumed that it would cause budget problems without taking his cuts to other budgets into account. Infrastructure is far more important and vital than some of the other things like the National Endowment for the Arts and certain forms of welfare that now President Trump is actually cutting. Fellow millennials, please wake up. After 7 months of President Trump, the national debt has gone down by over $100 billion, the GDP growth rate has tripled from 1% to 3% per year, and the number of new jobs created since January is over 250,000.
I have some advice for you Marxist nutjobs who think you can fool the American people into believing that the 25th Amendment applies to my president.
Bullshit.
The 25th Amendment specifically states in its own text that it is only applicable when a president is, quote, unable to exercise the powers and duties of his office. So to say that the 25th Amendment applies in this case takes a special kind of stupid.
You idiots!
Trump has done more work than virtually almost every other president before him.
If he called these countries shitholes, then I don't blame him, because in each and every case, they don't have houses, they have shanty towns. That remark has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with race and everything to do with living conditions. Want to know how you fix a shithole? You fix a shithole by holding the people running the shithole accountable. You do it by making them sign a contract that they lower taxes, roll back regulations, and incentivize entrepreneurship among their own peoples in order to receive any foreign aid at all. You don't do it by giving the corrupt people responsible for turning it into a shithole more and more power. You don't do it by importing the bad ideas like Islam and socialism that resulted in shithole formation into your own country. I'd like to believe that Islam is a religion of peace, but these numbers just don't add up. That is a contradiction. It is a violation of the second fundamental law of logic. Labeling people for making arguments that they don't like is a very common logical blunder among leftists. All this does is show off stupidity. Idiots! Tolerance is egalitarianism towards people and elitism towards ideas. Not all ideas are equally valid and you're a bigot if you disagree. That's actually intolerance masquerading as tolerance. There's this strange mentality coming from some leftists that anyone who does not outright endorse an ideology that those on the left try to promote must automatically hate the people who do promote that said ideology. That is called a false dichotomy. This idea that anyone who opposes your agenda must hate you as a person is an idea that puts emotions above facts. An appeal to emotion is a fallacy of relevance. I oppose illegal immigration and support legal immigration at the same time. Only a small percentage of immigrants are illegal, yet leftists in the mainstream media seem to have a very hard time making this distinction.
I'm definitely not a white nationalist, but I am a cultural nationalist. I want to preserve our culture, and in order to do that, the immigration needs to be a bit more restricted than it is.
If you lock your house at night, then it is hypocrisy to not also lock the border. Calling an illegal alien an undocumented immigrant is like calling a burglar an undocumented dinner guest. Fuck off. They broke into our country as opposed to ringing its doorbell. Assholes.
People lobbying on behalf of amnesty don't know the difference between immigration and burglary.
Idiots!
Immigration is when you come here legally and are properly vetted. Burglary is when you trespass across the border.
Illegal immigration is in and of itself the root cause of the student loan crisis. I don't know about you, but when I apply for a job, I want it to be readily available and not have to compete with people who burglarized our country by trespassing the border in order to obtain it.
It's common knowledge now that the men who virtue signal the most about abuse of women, the male feminists, are also the biggest abusers of women, because they're also pathologically secular, godless atheists who wrongly see Christianity as the only thing standing in the way between them and doing all kinds of sexual evils.
This is why leftists support Islam as well, because whereas the Bible sexually restricts both men and women, the Quran only restricts women.
Possessive, binary thinking that is pervasive in Muslim lands is also a reason why Islam, the religion of perverts, has absolutely no place in the West. By importing Muslim men from the Middle East and Africa into Europe, you can expect this perverted false dichotomy to travel with them.
Refugees, many of whom are purely economic migrants and therefore refugees in name only. Yet another reason why we must build the wall. The degeneracy and barbarism that these third world migrants are capable of instilling on our culture are not worth the risk. If it's not Muslim terrorists intentionally setting fires, it's illegal aliens carelessly setting them out of gross negligence with respect to the rule of law in general. The people that are most likely to throw trash and litter are illegal immigrants. By making California a sanctuary state, the elitists in Sacramento are exacerbating the amount of trash and debris that gets washed into the ocean and ends up killing marine life. A lot of times leftists don't factor in the environmental impacts of immigration, which illegal immigrants, they're the biggest litterers. They also, as you can see, this is all tinder dry. They also set the most illegal campfires out of any demographic. When they claim to support the environment, that's bullshit. Most of the state, I want to say 80–90% of California went from this to urban decay, all thanks to immigration and leftism. It's a real shame how leftism has transformed this into urban decay. Immigration, it's all causing damage to everything. Reason why I'm in favor of closing the borders is because pathological secularists depend on the votes of welfare dependents like the ones who come raging across our borders in order to win elections. They literally use welfare to buy votes. I support rule of law in this country and want people who violate federal statutes already on the books locked up. This country is a nation of laws and want people who broke into our country by trespassing across the border deported. If your first reaction is to call anyone who disagrees with you on this particular issue a bot, then you need a lesson in cybersecurity because you don't know shit about it. If all you do is whine, if all you do is throw tantrums, if all you do is threaten violence because you're so afraid to make your own countries better, then we don't want you here. The American dream is for American citizens and legal immigrants, not for illegal aliens. No, this does not make me an advocate for tearing families apart either, because I want the whole family deported. This hookup culture that in turn is why people wrongly think birth control to be a necessity. No, it's not. It's a crutch. It enables deconstructionism, and it creates the very disincentive that embodies the root cause of the West's declining birth rate. Abortion is also a crutch. Sexual degeneracy and abortion are tightly linked. The preborn child only contains half your DNA. Therefore, it is not even your body. Anyone who blindly asserts that abortion is their body and their choice is a science denier, and specifically a genetics denier. These idiots will often claim the preborn aren't conscious. Well, a person in a coma isn't conscious, but is the person in a coma a person? Then they move the goalposts again and claim that the preborn aren't sentient. Well, alcohol impairs senses, so is a drunk person a person? Why I'm pro-life is because 98.3% of abortions are because people know they can't afford a child and yet have sex anyway. While you idiots are busy being degenerates, I will have fun hiking, biking, boating, going to the beach, going to the lake, going to the gym, going to concerts, going to church, and saving sex for when it's actually useful. And hopefully this video teaches people lessons, but if not, you know, oh well. I'll just keep laughing my ass off at you bullshit artists. Haha, yeah, what else is new? I'm amazed that I even have to make this video. It is free speech that underpins all other rights out there. YouTube, everybody. I made one coherent argument after another in that video, and all you care about is the sound of my voice, punk. Responding to the travesty of justice in the Kate Steinle case. Hope to see you all there. Illegal aliens have got to go!
So you literally rode a bike. How many miles ride that bike, and are you willing to do it again?
It's definitely a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely smash it.
Smash that like
this is a day after the band. It's definitely a lot of fun.
When the oceans chill in the ocean's rage, I don't have to be fake, because 'cause I know that you love me. Your love never fails. Oh, you never fail.
So, you're trying to impress a right-wing, socially conservative, traditionalist, Second Amendment supporting ground journalist by using liberal logic 101.
Sing this together. You make all things.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Work together for my good. It's true. You make all things work together for my good.